conservative values from an Iraq war vet. Welcome to the Chaos Reduction. Here's Jay.
How about this new intro, huh? Pretty snazzy, huh? Got a little dubstep going on there, right? Not bad, not bad. Hello and welcome to the brand new and improved Chaos Reduction with Jay. Now, we have gone ahead and changed the name of the program, but the same great conservative content is still coming to you, uninterrupted. So, now that we've got that out of the way, how about I start with this? How about this week, I tell you why the name changed, because I'm sure some of you are wondering, right? Okay, so Climate and Chaos with Jay. Now, when I came up with that name, it's pretty simple, right? Climate refers to the political climate in DC, and chaos is what we talk about here on the show, right? We discern the chaos that comes out of the climate. Well, I started advertising on Facebook for my podcast, and I started getting a lot of the same thing. I started getting a lot of comments of people telling me off that climate change is a myth, and it's all a big joke, and there's no such thing as climate change. It's a hoax, this, that, and another. To which I kept telling everybody, I agree with you, but why are you telling me this? Well, it turned out that was why. People see the word climate, and I didn't even read the rest. It was just simply climate, so he must be talking about climate change. Yeah, so you know what? I just did away with the climate part. So now it is just the Chaos Reduction with Jay. How about that, right? Anyway. Been an interesting week, right? I mean, I had a hard time even getting excited to record this week because, you know, you've got to hit your frustration point at some point. And for me, this is it. I have just so had it with the left and their lying and their antics and the media that just assists them in their constant smearing and bullying and just all out disgustingness, right? So, what did we have to happen this week that totally blew the doors off anything else we could talk about? Well, let's talk about this fake impeachment crap that Nancy Pelosi has announced. Yeah, okay, so all of a sudden, Nancy Pelosi caves in to the far left of her party. She is now on the AOC is the real speaker train, and Nancy Pelosi is just speaker in name only. Now that we have that established, I'm glad she finally admitted to it. But yeah, she caves and decides she's going to stand in front of microphones and announce that we are now in an official impeachment inquiry. Now, that's interesting. She managed to pull that off without a vote, huh? Yeah, Nancy Pelosi is scared out of her mind to hold a vote because she doesn't have 218 votes in the House to impeach, and she knows it. She also doesn't have public support. Every poll you look at, there is a huge margin of people in this country that favor not impeaching over impeaching President Trump. So what does that mean when we break it down and look at it? Now, Nancy Pelosi's not stupid. She's been in Congress a long time. She obviously looks at polls, right? So what does it mean that she's going ahead with this anyway, even though you and I are not in favor of it? It means the Democrats don't give two damns about what you want. It's as simple as that. They're going to do what they want because they're so thirsty for power that it doesn't even matter. Let's look at this recent situation. Now, last week when I recorded, we were just getting some information about this whistleblower person. We don't know it's a guy. So we were just getting information on it. Now, I got a lot more information this week, obviously, and due to some key reporting of some actually great journalists, we can get into what people like John Solomon have uncovered, John Solomon of The Hill. But before we do that, I almost forgot. I want to tell you guys an interesting little anecdote of something that happened to me this week. And if you follow me on Twitter, you may have actually figured this out. Twitter went ahead and suspended me this week. Yes, they did. They suspended me this week. Now, it's kind of a funny story, so I'll tell you how this all worked out. And now, right now, it's Saturday morning, and I just got my account back. But let me tell you the story of exactly what happened. I go into Twitter, I think it was probably Sunday or Monday, towards the end of the day, 7, 8 o'clock at night. And I get this message that I can't go into my Twitter until I verify my identity because my account exhibits automation behavior or something like that. So I had to look it up to see what that meant. Well, of course, Twitter's calling me a bot. Now, if you haven't been to my Twitter, I have pictures on my Twitter. I have a picture of myself on my Twitter. It's a real person photo, not just any photo of something else. And I have a link on there that takes you to my podcast. And since Twitter doesn't know this, maybe I need to put out the fact that if you go and hit the link on my podcast and pick any one of my podcast episodes that are up, you'll hear a real person talking when you click on the podcast. Well, I guess Twitter didn't disseminate that information and figure it all out because they accused me of being a bot. Now, I don't know. Some people have said that somebody must have reported me as a bot or whatever, but with the left, who knows? Okay, I'm very vocal on Twitter. I know that, and I run the risk of it because I'm a conservative, and I post all over my profile that I'm a conservative, that I run the risk of this happening. So I think that between, when did I start my account? I believe it was January of 2016. From that point on, I've never had a suspension yet. This is my first and only. So I digress. Getting back to the point. So I find myself suspended. It tells me I have to do 2 things to get back in. Okay, so first thing, I have to do this little CAPTCHA thing where I push the ones with the traffic lights, right? And okay, so I'm a master at picking out traffic lights from a picture, so that works out just fine. The next thing it wants to do is it wants to send me an SMS code to my phone. Well, that wouldn't be a problem except for the fact that it had my old phone number in there, right? Well, I'm completely locked out. I can't get in at all. I can't change my phone number. I can't update my information. I can't do anything. It either wants to send me a code to my phone, or it's not going to let me in. So I start researching this. I'm looking it up. And finally, I start contacting Twitter. I go through the little help link and I'm contacting Twitter and I'm telling them, hey, this is a mistake. This is the wrong phone number. My current phone number is this in pertinence to this account, blah, 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 right? So, of course, days go by and I'm not hearing anything, right? I mean, absolutely not hearing anything. Does anybody want to take a bet why I didn't hear anything? I mean, I'm pretty sure this is obvious in this age of censorship for conservatives. I mean, of course, I'm thinking that they took a look at my account, they see conservative podcast host, blah, 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 so they're not going to rush to do anything. Anyway, I had pretty much given up on the account, okay? So you may or may not know, depending if you're following me or not, that I started a backup account, okay? And that one is still active, and I'm keeping it as a backup in case this should happen again, but it is at Iraq War Vet 2005, okay? So that's my backup. I get a message this morning that they apologized, they're sorry, they made a mistake, and they reinstated my account. Sure, they made a mistake, right? I mean, is anybody believing this, that they made a mistake? Censorship with these big tech companies is a big, big problem. I mean, I seriously am hoping something happens in the White House land for this somewhat soon. I don't believe in government stepping in to regulate corporate America, okay? Corporate America functioning in a capitalist society is the backbone of our survival, and government should not interfere with that. But when companies get as big as they are, when Google has the power to manipulate anywhere between 2.6 and 10 million votes in the last election in favor of Democrats, okay, we've got a problem here. Something needs to be done. I mean, I don't know if you guys heard about that, but truth be told, it was actually a Democrat, a Hillary Clinton supporter, did this research and found out that they manipulated somewhere between 2.6 and 10 million votes. Any society where we have companies that can just throw a wrench in something like that, this is a major, major problem. It needs to be dealt with. Anyway, I'm going to move on from that. Let's talk about, so let's talk about this whistleblower complaint. Okay, so we find out more about this whistleblower First off, we find out that this person is a CIA operative, okay? And apparently, from what I've gathered, is they are a leftover from the Obama administration, which means they worked for who? That's right, John Q. Brennan, right? Actually, I think his middle initial is O, but it's irrelevant. My point is John Brennan, right? So that's great. John Brennan, who also stepped up this morning and praised the whistleblower. So we find that out. We find out that the whistleblower is not actually a whistleblower. Okay, now get this. If you know this or not, I don't know, but check this out. So apparently, a month or so ago, month, 2 months, 3 months, whatever, somewhere in that time frame, okay, Jay Sekulow had put this out, at least that I heard. The whistleblower complaint used to have a disclaimer on it when you go to make it the whistleblower complaint that it has to be firsthand knowledge, that this has to be something that you heard firsthand. This can't be hearsay element. Well, a month or so, 2 months, whatever, they took that off. Now, isn't that interesting? Right in time for this whistleblower complaint, many have said that this complaint, which has now been released, it's 9 pages long, it looks like it's been written by a law firm, okay? And over again, it is just hearsay after hearsay after hearsay. People told me, I was informed, I gathered from others, many people said this. It's all in pertinence to this call that President Trump had with the leader of Ukraine, and President Trump released the call. The call is completely appropriate for the president of the country to have with another president of a foreign country. And nowhere in the conversation does President Trump speak about the foreign aid. He never says anything about the foreign aid. Rudy Giuliani's name comes up. A.G. Barr's name come up. President Trump says he's going to put them in touch with them because of an ongoing corruption issue that has been taking place in the Ukraine. Now, this was in particular, he was talking about the fact that Ukraine is a very corrupt place. It always has been, okay? Since it's divulging from Russia, it's been a very corrupt place. President Trump was referring to corruption overall. Now, yes, Joe Biden's name came up in this. President Trump has a duly sworn obligation to this country to make sure that laws are not being broke by our citizens here or abroad. He's the chief of the executive branch. He's the chief law enforcement officer in the country. So, yeah, he's allowed to do that. Many have said that if he didn't inquire about this, it would be considered dereliction of duty. So, that's how the call went. And from that, we have gathered that President Trump didn't do anything wrong. This whistleblower complaint is a setup. It's a complete and utter setup, okay? It doesn't matter where you come from on this, you have to look at this for what it is. Empirical evidence is evidence that cannot be denied. We know that. We realize that. When we're hit with facts that are contrary to our beliefs, and it is of an empirical evidence nature, the only choice you have is to admit you were wrong, admit you learned something, and move on. What makes us different from the left, however, is the left will continue to argue with you in the face of empirical evidence. They'll continue to argue with you, they'll call you names, they'll do whatever it takes. But they will not win the argument in the face of empirical evidence because it cannot be disproven. Now, of course, none of that matters to the left. Nancy Pelosi actually announced her impeachment crapola that we're supposed to believe prior to President Trump releasing the phone call. So she basically said, I don't care if President Trump is innocent or guilty, we're going to impeach him for something. So all that being said, okay, we have got to talk about the infamous, most treacherous, lying form of politician known to mankind today, Adam Schiff. This guy is so bad, right? Let's talk about this committee hearing he had with Joseph Maguire, the acting DNI right now, right? This guy, unbelievable. I don't know if you caught this. I'm hoping you caught this because more people that see what clowns these Democrats are, the absolute better it can be for us, okay? he has this hearing in which immediately, right off the bat, he's trying to get Joseph Maguire to convict President Trump of wrongdoing right there in the hearing room. Well, isn't this true? Isn't that true? Isn't it true that this was inappropriate behavior? Isn't it true that this was, well, you would say that this was an urgent matter, right? This is an urgent and credible matter, right? You know, Joseph Maguire handled himself extremely well. But if that wasn't bad enough, Adam Schiff had to make a total idiot out of himself beyond any and all reparation, to the point now where he has people calling for him to step down. And Andy Biggs, representative from Arizona, man, hats off to that guy. He is actually calling for censure on Adam Schiff. And I have never seen, in the time President Trump has been in power, I have never seen anyone call for censure on anyone. So I'm extremely impressed with this. I mean, that could not be a better thing, because finally somebody is stepping up and holding Democrats to account. That just doesn't seem to happen. And I think that is probably the most depressing thing that we as conservatives go through, is watching how President Trump is trashed constantly and there is no retaliation from the right. You know what? I shouldn't even say retaliation, because we're not retaliating. We're not doing it because you did it to us. We're doing it because it's the right thing to do. People don't stand up for the president. We have a lot of rhinos, Republicans in name only, to me, are just as bad, if not worse than the left. Because at least the left, we know where they're coming from. They're off in loony land somewhere, but these Republicans are supposed to act a certain way. They ran on conservative agendas to get elected. Then they get in power and they act completely opposite. They act like liberals. Mitt Romney's name comes to mind. My Lord, we could do without Mitt Romney. He has got to be a Democrat plant. He has got to be on the Soros payroll. I am calling for a complete and expansive investigation into Mitt Romney's financials, because I'm telling you, you will find payments from George Soros in there somewhere. How do I get carried away on these things? I don't know. But anyway, getting back to Adam Schiff. So Adam Schiff decides that the phone call transcript from President Trump's call with the leader of Ukraine wasn't actually bad. Okay, it really wasn't bad at all. It wasn't bad enough, obviously, to sway public opinion during this hearing. So he decided to rewrite his own version of it from like the perspective of a stereotypical mobster, maybe one of Italian descent. He took it and made it sound like a complete browbeating of President Trump, browbeating the Ukraine president into investigating Biden, or he's not getting the money. I was actually shocked that Adam Schiff would actually act that way. You know, Adam Schiff is not a politician. He's a used car salesman at best, and he's abhorrent at it at that. But you would think that he would at least have the decorum to act professionally. But where am I getting this from? This is the guy that told us for 2.5 years that he had the smoking gun evidence on President Trump's collusion with Russia, right? This is the same guy. Absolutely it is. So I guess I shouldn't be shocked. To me, and maybe I'm just feeble-minded, but the highlight of this committee was when Joseph Maguire was answering a question from Eric Swalwell, and he called him Congresswoman. I thought that just made my day. I watched that on a loop at least 100 times over and over. But like I said, hey, I'm simple-minded. It doesn't take much to impress me. So, that being said. So now, this is where we are. The left has lost their mind. We are way beyond any policy differences that we have with the left, okay? I'm talking about from the point of an independent voter, which I firmly believe the left has completely lost. I think that independent voters have made up their minds at this point, or probably should have, at least I would say, in a sense that the left's behavior is just so bad that the only people they're appealing to is the people that yell in an echo chamber that Orange Man is bad. That is it. That's all they have left. The United States is no bigger than California to Nancy Pelosi. The United States is no bigger than California to Adam Schiff. The United States is no bigger than New York to Jerry Nadler. Okay, these people don't see the rest of the country, obviously. I kept thinking that they had a surprise. Something was coming. Something was coming. No, nothing is coming. They have nothing left. There is absolutely nothing left. As a matter of fact, let's talk about this double standard that we're constantly dealing with, right? So all these accusations are being hurled at President Trump. It could not be more transparent that the person that they're talking about is Joe Biden, right? Joe Biden is done. Okay, he is absolutely done. And if you remember on the show a few episodes back, I called it that Joe Biden would not be the front runner. He would not be the Democrat nominee. Now I am more sure than ever that it is only a matter of time before Joe Biden drops out of the race. Okay, so let's run through a quick rundown on Biden's claims versus reality, because I think this is majorly important. Now, John Solomon has done some great reporting on this issue, and he has talked to everybody possible in connection with this firing of this prosecutor of Shokin, and he has come up with everything that debunks what Biden has said. Now, let me tell you, Biden's claim, okay, is that in the spring of 2016, he forced the Ukrainian officials to fire its chief prosecutor due to him being corrupt and inept. He said that it was not because Shokin was investigating Burisma Holdings, which is a Ukrainian gas company that Hunter Biden was hired to sit on the board of. Now, this was after Hunter Biden had taken a flight on Air Force Two with Joe Biden to Ukraine, and then like 10 days later, he was put on the board of this company. And he's got no gas experience, no oil experience, no energy experience, nothing to do with that whatsoever, but he's put on the board of this company. Okay, so that in itself raises question, but we'll talk more about that. Now, John Solomon has provided memos that he obtained from inside the American team helping Burisma that show that they met with Ukrainian officials days after Biden forced the firing and offered an apology for dissemination of false information by U.S. officials. So that brings up two very interesting questions. Now, if Biden's claims are true, why did Burisma's legal team call it fake news? Why did they issue an apology? And if the firing had nothing to do with Burisma's case, then why were they trying to secure a meeting with the new prosecutor as early as the same day that Shokin was fired to discuss the case? What case would there have been to discuss, you might ask, right? Well, there were a couple. Now, the fake news will tell you that there were no open cases at the time that Joe Biden had this conversation and threatened to withhold $1 billion in federal aid to the Ukraine. They'll tell you there were no cases open. Well, that's not true. There actually started out being 3 cases Prosecutor Shokin was running on Burisma Holdings. Now, one of them got dropped on a technicality. Okay, I don't recall exactly what the technicality was, but it was dropped because evidence wasn't turned in by a certain date or something like that. That's really irrelevant. What matters is there were 2 cases open at that time. One was for taxes, and the other was for corruption. So Biden's claim that there were no open cases, which he has said, and also the fake news media has said, is totally and completely incorrect. Now, on the other hand, the Ukraine claims that they have tried to get evidence to the United States since the summer of 2018 because they thought it might indicate violations of U.S. ethics laws. Now, first, they hired a former federal prosecutor, and he had no interest in it whatsoever. And then second, they called who? They called Rudy Giuliani, and he definitely had an interest in it. You see, Biden found out in December of 2015 from an article in the New York Times that the Ukrainian prosecutor was opening an investigation. Now, back to the Shokin firing. Now, he's testified in a European court that he was fired because Biden was upset. He's actually put his name to an actual affidavit that says he was fired because Joe Biden was upset that he was investigating Burisma Holdings. Now, he also has testified that President Poroshenko, the president prior to the current president, who is Vladimir Zelensky, He has also stated that President Poroshenko would put pressure on him to drop the investigation. He had asked him on several occasions to wind down the investigation on Burisma Holdings, and Shokin said no, he wasn't going to do that. And then the next thing you know, he's fired, he's out the door. Biden gave him 6 hours, if you've seen the video, remember? I'm leaving here in 6 hours, and I'm taking my $1 billion with me. And you can call Obama because he agrees with me. So what do we have here that the left and the fake news want to completely ignore? They are completely 100%, no other way to say it, lying about what President Trump didn't do, but they are completely covering up what we know for a fact that Joe Biden did. He pressured the Ukraine to fire the prosecutor looking into his son's case. And that's just in Ukraine. We don't even know about China. Apparently, he struck $1.5 billion deal there, Hunter Biden did, shortly after going over there with his daddy on Air Force Two. So, obviously, more should come of this, but truth be told, is it gonna? Who knows? It depends if our DOJ is going to actually get involved with this. Now, last I had heard also is that AG Barr had extended U.S. Attorney Durham's purview to include Ukraine. So we'll see what comes of that. We don't know if he's investigating Biden or what's going to come of that. We just don't know yet. But if justice is ever going to truly be something that the American people can believe in, this is something that has to be looked at. Because if there can't be any justice for this, what can there be justice for? If anything says that we have a two-tier justice system, it is this situation right here. Nothing else quite says it, except for maybe Hillary. What Hillary did, acid washing her and losing her emails and taking hammers to cell phones, yeah, that in itself is pretty corrupt. If you or I did that, we'd be in prison. But nope, two-tier justice system, she gets off just fine. So we'll have to see what else comes of that. So I'll tell you exactly where we're left at this point. The Democrats have fully conceded the fact that they cannot beat President Trump at the ballot box. They just know it. They know there is no way they're going to beat him at the ballot box. So they're trying to do it with impeachment. They've come flat out and said, like Representative Al Green said, is that if we don't impeach him, he could very well win a second term. He's going to win a second term. Well, at least Al Green is smart enough to know that President Trump has the support of the American people. Like I said earlier, these people scream into their echo chambers in the coastal states. Not all the coastal states. There are plenty of conservative coastal states on the East Coast. But they're screaming into their echo chambers in California and New York and New Jersey and wherever else, especially where there is a lot of liberal mindset, and they don't see that the rest of the country is not supportive of what they're doing. You got to think about it. If the concentrated areas, the reason why we have the Electoral College is because of the concentration of political beliefs in different areas, right? So if we know California, let's say California is made up a lot of liberal mentality, and those are the people that are screaming that President Trump should be impeached, you can almost pretty much ensure that most of the rest of the country doesn't want him impeached. So if that's any kind of referendum on how this country is going to vote in 2020, not getting too cocky, but I think it's looking pretty good for President Trump. Now, one other thing I wanted to touch on that just came to my attention this morning, it appears that there have been efforts, California, to remove that horrible idiot governor of yours, Gavin Newsom. And it appears that they're taking off better than expected. Last I heard, I think I heard that there were 600,000 people that have now signed petitions on this. That would be the first step towards taking California back. It really would. And of course, the thing that California needs to look at is how Californians are being treated by their own state government. Now, Gavin Newsom, who is notorious for taking care of illegals, not taking care of the homeless, not taking care of veterans, not taking care of any American citizens, but he bends over backwards for his sanctuary cities and all his wonderful illegal voting bloc. That's a great effort. My congratulations to whoever's leading this movement to recall Gavin Newsom. Now, I do know also the website is recallgavinnow.com. So if you're in California or wherever, I don't know if it actually matters, but especially if you're in California, if you're not happy with your state government, which I'm pretty sure if you're listening to me, you're not, go to that website, recallgavinnow.com, and make sure you sign up to get him out of there. Because the petitions would actually close in February, I heard, and then from there would be another election, and Gavin Newsom would be forced to resign. So it's not a pipe dream, California. It is possible y'all can take your state back. Now, I still stand on my claim that I have made since the beginning of July, end of June, early July, that President Trump is definitely going to win this 2020 election. And when he does, it's going to be a referendum on the insane liberal left. Everything from Speaker Pelosi handing her gavel over to AOC, because AOC is the real speaker in that party, to their insane programs that they think the American people are in favor of. Folks, we are not handing over our guns. We are not in favor of open borders. And we are certainly not in favor of infanticide, killing infants at the time of birth. We're not even in favor, if you're pro-life like I am, you're not even in favor, obviously, of abortion. Well, they want to take it to a whole new level. They want there to be abortion up into and including the moment of birth. Wasn't it Ralph Northam that said the baby would be born and he'd be kept comfortable, and then the mother and the doctor could make a decision as to what they want to do? Well, don't let them mix words, folks. What they're saying is they're going to decide whether or not they're going to kill the baby. There are other alternatives out there, obviously. And I think now 6 cities in Texas have now banned abortion. They have made it their own forms of heartbeat bills, and they've actually called it a sanctuary to the unborn. And also, last note I'm going to give you on this impeachment topic. You know, Congress's approval rating at last check was 14%. So what they're trying to tell us is Congress, whose approval rating is 14%, is going to impeach the president, whose approval rating is 53%. Try on that liberal logic sometime. That just makes no sense to me whatsoever. I would love to see Lindsey Graham open a Senate investigation into Joe Biden. I would love to see Lindsey Graham open up all kinds of Senate inquiries into all these dirty Democrats. And I would most definitely like to see A.G. Barr. And we, in all fairness, we don't know what he's doing behind the scenes. We know the IG report is supposed to come out soon on FISA abuse, and God help us. Hopefully that'll be more active than the last one was on Comey's actions that they declined to prosecute. I would love to see the DOJ take up some action here. Do something. If for no other reason, if not for the right that it's justice being done, how about to show the American people that we still have somebody left fighting for us? Wouldn't that be nice to see? I mean, come on, you got to be honest with yourself now. Don't you often feel like conservatives with our values and supporters of President Trump are on an island, basically, and we feel like there is nobody helping us? It is one and of the same with insanity, folks. So, now you can feel complete knowing exactly how I feel about everything going on in politics today. Listen, the name of the show has changed, but the morals and the basic values have not. I will always be a conservative. I will always be a patriot, and I will always bring you the conservative viewpoints of an ex-military warrior. You have been listening to the Chaos Reduction with Jay. Once again, I thank you so much for stopping by. Come back next Monday when we'll have another episode for you. Till then, take good care of each other.